Dear students, in this video, we'll discuss about the poetic devices of the poem Dust of Snow. And first of all, we'll discuss about the rhyming scheme of the poem. And we'll start with stanza 1. To find out the rhyming scheme, dear children, we have to see the last word of each line. As the last word of first line is crow, so the rhyming scheme always starts with A. The rhyming scheme of first line will be A. Now we'll see the last word of second line, which is me. And me is not rhyming with crow, so the rhyming scheme will be B. Third line, last word is snow, which is rhyming with crow, so the rhyming scheme will be A. Now we'll see the last word of last line, which is tree, and the tree is rhyming with me. That's why the rhyming scheme of the last line will also be B. So in this way, the rhyming scheme of stanza 1, dear children, is A, B, A, B. Now let's find out the rhyming scheme of stanza 2. Again, we will see the last word of first line, which is heart, and the rhyming scheme, as I told you, it always starts with A. So for the first line, stanza 2, rhyming scheme will be A. Last word of second line is mood, which is not rhyming with heart, so it is B. Last word of third line is part, which is rhyming with heart, so again rhyming scheme will be A. And the last word of last line is rude, which is rhyming with mood, so the rhyming scheme of the last line will also be B. So in this way, dear children, the rhyming scheme of stanza 2 is also A, B, A, B. Now we'll discuss about the other poetic devices which are used in this poem. The first one is imagery. Before we find out the example, or before we discuss about the example of imagery used in the poem, we'll discuss about the definition of imagery. Imagery is a literary device used in poetry or novels which uses the descriptions that appeal to readers' senses to create image or idea in their mind. Imagery, dear students, it is a literary device which is used by the poets or the novelists to create the imagination in the minds of the readers. Let's discuss the example. Robert Frost uses imagery like a crow scattering snow from hemlock tree and dust of snow falling on the poet. In this poem, the poet Robert Frost, he used this imagery of crows scattering the snowflakes from the hemlock tree and that dust of snow which is falling on the poet, and that depicts the positive effect of nature on poet. So kind of imagery creates in our mind when we read this line in the poem, dear children. We can imagine a crow shaking the snowflakes from the hemlock tree on the poet and how the poet's mood suddenly changed. So this is the example of imagery used in poem. Second poetic device is symbolism. Let's discuss the definition of symbolism. Use of symbols to signify ideas by giving them symbolic meaning that is different from their literal meaning. Symbolism is It is a kind of an idea which is having some symbolic meaning. It doesn't have a literary meaning. Literary meaning means it's wordly meaning, word meaning, meaning of word. So it is separate. It is not a meaning of word. It is a kind of a symbol which is used in the poem. Let's discuss the example. As in this poem, dear children, the crow and hemlock tree are the symbols used to depict the emotions of sadness, depression, and gloom. Gloom is again sadness. As crow and hemlock tree are the kind of things which are associated with some negative aspects. So, crow and hemlock tree were used in this poem to depict the emotions of the poet. And the emotions were sadness, depression, and gloom. And these symbols are also used to show that the insignificant or negative things of nature can also play important role in person's life. So through these symbols, dear children, we come to know that even the unimportant things, insignificant means the things which are not of that importance, or the negative things, or the things which we consider negative, they can also play important role in a person's life. As in the poem, these things help the poet to change his mood. So, crow and hemlock tree were used as the symbol of emotions of sadness, depression, and gloom in this poem. Now let us discuss the poetic devices used in the poem stanza-wise. We'll discuss the first stanza. Stanza 1, the first line, the way a crow. Dear children, in this line, the poetic device which is used is consonance. And what is consonance? Consonance is the repetition of the consonant sounds in the beginning, middle, or at the end of two or more consecutive words in a line. Consecutive means साथ में लगते हुए words. दो या दो से ज़्यादा साथ में लगते हुए words किसी एक लाइन में जब मिलते हैं और जिनका sound क्या होता है? Consonant sounds. And the consonant sounds are the sounds other than vowel sounds. It is the example of consonance. And here, dear children, the way a crow, W sound, sound, W, is being repeated, sound is being repeated here in the first line, which is the example of consonance. Second line, shook down on me. Shook down on me. So here again, the first poetic device which is used is consonance. How? See, down, n sound, on, n sound. N, these consonant sounds are repeating in this line. So this is the example of consonance. And in the same line, dear children, the other poetic device is also used, and that is assonance. And what is assonance? Assonance is the repetition of the vowel sounds in the beginning, middle, or at the end of two or more consecutive words in a line is called assonance. And the vowel sounds are a, e, u, a, o. These are the vowel sounds. Now here see, shook down on, o. sounds are very prominent here in the second line. So this is the example of assonance. Come to the third line now. The dust of snow. Again, in the third line, first poetic device which is used is consonants. How? Let's find out. Dust, s sound. Snow, s sound. S sounds, consonant sounds are prominent here. So this is the example of consonants. And here one more poetic device which is used is metaphor, dear children. Metaphor means comparison between two things without using the word like or as. And here, dust of snow. Here, dear children, snowflakes are being compared with the dust particles. In this line, the snowflakes are compared with the dust particles without using the word like or as. So this is the example of metaphor. Now let's find out the poetic device in the last line. From a hemlock tree. Again, here in this last line, first poetic device which is used is consonants. And let's find out the example. From a hemlock. M sound is repeating here. So this is the example of consonants. And the other poetic device is assonance. How? Let's find out. Hemlock tree. E. Vowel sounds are being repeating here. So this is the example of assonance. Now let us discuss the poetic devices used in the stanza 2. First line, has given my heart. Here, dear children, a new poetic device is used, and that is alliteration. And what is alliteration? Alliteration means the repetition of the consonant sound. Again, the repetition of the consonant sound, but this time in the beginning of two or more consecutive words in a line. This is the example of alliteration. And here see, h sounds are repeating in the beginning of the words. So this is the example of alliteration. Don't get confused in between alliteration and consonants, dear children. In both the poetic devices, the consonant sounds repeat, but what happens in alliteration? In alliteration, the consonant sounds are repeated only in the beginning of the words. But in consonants, the consonant sound is repeated in the beginning, middle, or at the end of two or more consecutive words. Now, in the second line of stanza 2, a change of mood. Here, consonants is used, change of mood. Not consonants, it is actually assonance. Why? Because see, O sounds are being repeated here. So this is the example of assonance, not consonants. This is the example of assonance. Why assonance? Because here what is happening? The vowel sounds, O sound is repeating here, assonance. So this is the example of assonance, not consonants. Now come to the third line, and saved some part. Saved some part is, here is the example which is used is consonants, dear children. S sounds are repeating. So this is the example of consonants. This is the example of consonants. Why? Because sir consonant sound is being repeated. Okay, now come to the last word. Of a day I had rude. And this is the example of consonants again, because d sound is repeating. So this is the example of consonants. So dear children, in today's video we discussed about the poetic devices of dust of snow, and I hope you have understood it well.